Everyone, this is Marshall Butler, Zone 34 Rotary Public Image Coordinator. And tonight, super happy to introduce and bring to you all a fantastic presentation on Heart for Africa. And I'm going to take these out of my ears because I'm getting echo right now. But tonight, we're going to be talking about the Heart for Africa project. It's a project that was initiated right here in Zone 34. And it's a great way for us to tell the Rotary story, to tell how the Rotary Foundation makes a difference in people's lives every day. We have David Bryant with us tonight to talk about that project. But before we get there, what I want to do is I do want to recap for those of you in Zone 34 that may be participating in our Rotary Public Image Coordinator project. I want to talk to you a little bit about the last couple of tasks that we have. And let me grab over here. So what we have is the first three tasks of the year, you'll remember, were the social media audit, the public image plan, and the content calendar. All of those, they were due earlier this year, but we did have a little bit of a grace period because we know that we're still kind of getting out of that weird, funky pandemic COVID period. So we did want to provide a little bit of grace, but we will be removing the links for all of these tasks on November 30th. So if you are a club or you're a district governor and all the clubs in your district haven't participated in this yet, we really encourage you to jump on this. At the bottom of the screen here, you can see the link to this slide deck. That's going to take you to all the slides that have not only these links, but it also has the photos that David's going to be speaking to a little bit later on. So you can see all those great photos of the work that Heart for Africa has done. So that's the first three tasks. And then we also have the tasks that we're kind of in the middle of right now, which is we want to know what you did for World Polio Day. How did you celebrate World Polio Day and tell everyone about the great work that Rotary is doing to eradicate this horrible disease? So that was the October post. And actually, this one is really relevant for November with the foundation. And this webinar really goes hand in hand with, we want to know how you're telling the foundation story. Did you have a special speaker come to your club, or did you do a project or a fundraiser? How did you tell the story of the Rotary Foundation during the month of November? And then next month, we'll be sending out a survey. We always want to get feedback from everyone, letting us know how our team is doing. So that's some quick housekeeping issues. I'm now going to toss it back over to Kirk Driscoll, and Kirk is going to introduce our special guests tonight. So Kirk, back over to you.
Thank you so much for being here with us tonight, David. It's an absolute pleasure to be here with everyone. And I know a lot of times being November with Foundation Month, we talk about the global grants and a lot of how we do it. And what I'm excited with you tonight is for you to be able to see the benefit on the other side of who gets to receive it, the impact that it has. And in this case, just what clean water, by building a dam, the impact that it's had. And David and John are both there in the North Fulton Rotary Club, which is in my hometown of Alpharetta. So this is close to home. And I've been around this project and this organization and this club as well, just to see the work that they've done. And with that, I don't know if I see John there and I see David, but if y'all could take it from there. And so thank you for being here and your time on this week with us, but look forward to hearing what you got to say.
Well, thank you, Kirk, and thank you, Marshall, for the opportunity to speak with you tonight. And I did ask John to join us because he is longtime Rotarian, club president, foundation chair, and he certainly can provide more of a historical perspective and is the expert that we turn to within our club for all things foundation related and global grant related. And so unfortunately, I sent him my link, so it says David Bryant, but John Bach is there in the red shirt. John's waving at everyone. And John, thank you for joining us tonight. So I just want to start very briefly by talking about the opportunity to be both a Rotarian and to be involved with the organization that is benefiting or has benefited from the global grants that North Fulton Rotary Club has made possible. And I do serve as the executive director of Heart for Africa. And as an organization located in Eswatini, which is in tiny little country, located entirely within the borders of South Africa, we have enjoyed an incredible relationship with the Rotary Club of North Fulton. And this club has been extraordinary in its partnership and in its support and its commitment to our work of fighting hunger, caring for orphans, decreasing poverty, and providing education. And that relationship started many years ago, but the global grant process that we're going to talk specifically about today began back, gosh, probably 12, 13 years ago or more with our first global grant, which is actually around $10,000 or $15,000, I believe. In 2009, 2010, we received a grant for a tractor, which, as I shared earlier, we still use on the farm today, proudly displaying the Rotary seal on that tractor. And then the grant that we're going to speak a little bit more about today, which was the grant for the Living Waters Dam, which was a process that was started in kind of 2012, 2013. The dam was dedicated in December of 2014, and we'll talk about the clubs involved with that, because there were a lot of clubs in Georgia, there were clubs in Taiwan, Canada, as well as Eswatini. So there was truly a global effort to bring that grant together and to fund that dam. And then we can talk a little bit about the Mechanic Project, the Eswatini Mechanic Project, which is the most recent global grant that we have been awarded from the foundation. And that's just within the last year. We just received notification earlier this year, and John was a vital part of that, as well as our club member, Mike Mudd. And so we've just truly benefited from the opportunity to leverage the Rotary Foundation investment, to partner with other clubs in our district and beyond, and to really benefit from the generosity of our club and its members. And so as an organization that's been the direct recipient of that, I think it's just a really cool perspective to be able to talk about that a little bit tonight. So with that, I just kind of want to turn it over to John. And John, wanted to let you talk specifically about kind of the club's history in global grants, how the club got involved with global grants to begin with.
Well, thank you, David. You know, it's a long time ago. It's hard to believe that 15, 17 years have passed since our relationship with Art for Africa and the Eswatini Club began. But I mean, basically, I laughed because my wife read a book and said I needed to read the book, which meant I needed to read the book, and it was Janine Maxwell's book regarding Heart for Africa. It's Not Okay With Me. And so then I found out that there were trips over there by the Heart for Africa organization. So my wife went on one, and in the back of my mind, I was thinking, you know, maybe a global grant would be a possibility. It was something I'd heard about. It kind of lived in the sky in my mind in some respects. But I went over there, and it was a trip sponsored by Heart for Africa. And during the week, there was one night that I could slip away. And that was a Thursday night meeting of the club that we eventually partnered with. I came back excited, and when I was at that meeting, I asked around and was greeted with enthusiasm by club members, came back, and the thing that, that really helped, I think, jumpstart everything is that we held a real special event at the Golf Club of Georgia, where the foundation director at the time came and spoke, and we had, I think Janine spoke, the founder of Heart for Africa was there and spoke as well. So that generated a lot of enthusiasm. We started simple with the tractor, which wasn't too hard because it basically involved buying a tractor and putting it to use, shipping it over there, which was cheaper. And then after that, somebody Janine comes and says, well, what about a dam? Which was at first blush comical to me, but there was enough energy that still existed from the earlier grant that the idea caught fire. And, the thing that made all of this work was that we had a great organization, and still do, Heart for Africa, that was able to take the grant and work with it. and we had a great partner club, still do, over in East Watini. And so that led, to the dam being a reality. Rotary was wonderful, pushing behind it. And, you just staying in touch with the foundation folks. Our club members went out, and Heart for Africa has so many connections, nationally and internationally. And the idea just really caught fire. So you had a whole bunch of clubs, as David said, that were involved in the project. And we were able to carry it home. And with the relationships already established, it was very easy to put together a grant for the mechanic project that I think David spoke of.
Thanks, John. Just to give everyone a little bit of context for the dam and for Janine's request several years ago for the dam, part of we focus on 4 things: hunger, orphans, poverty, and education. And as part of our fight against hunger, we have open field farming. We have an aquaponics project that's kind of a combination of hydroponics and fish farming, and situated inside a large greenhouse. But part of the challenge in that climate is that the rainy season is basically a few months out of the year, and you need dams or catchment areas in order to capture and retain that water in order to have sufficient have sufficient quantities for domestic usage and agricultural usage. And so at the time, we did have a dam on the property that was much smaller. This one is obviously much, much bigger. I think it holds or has a capacity for over 10 million gallons of water. And so with the help of the foundation, we were able to build that. And here's the challenge, and here's why relationships are so key in this. So we dedicated this in December 2014. And then in 2015, the worst drought in the history of Southern Africa hit the continent. And there were no rains, there was no water, and the dam got very, very low. And I remember several conversations with John and others about, when do you believe the dam will be able to be effective? When do you believe you'll be able to increase your agricultural output? Because part of the pitch of this to the foundation was our ability to expand from open field farming of about 15 acres to 70 acres, and the ability to hire additional farm workers, which is another one of our aims, is to provide employment. And so we went through the drought of 2015, 2016, got some rain in 2017. And then finally in 2018, the dam began to fill back up, and it has remained completely full. As a matter of fact, I shared with our club earlier this year, there was a cyclone that hit Eswatini and kind of the eastern coast of Africa, South Africa, earlier this year, that completely overflowed the boundaries of the dam. And so it was the fullest it's ever been. But the impact for us from that particular grant was the ability to increase the amount of farming we were doing, which is directly related to the amount of food that we're able to produce to sustain the children. We have over 300 children that live with us on our farm. We have over 300 employees, probably close 80 to 100 of them, who are working on the farm in a variety of different areas. And so the challenge for us has been harnessing that water and creating jobs, creating kind of a sustainable culture for us, because farming is such a big part of that. And so really the work of the foundation and the work that we had, and John kind of referenced this earlier in talking about Heart for Africa, I think one of the things that we've been very effective at doing is when we do develop resources and relationships, we put those to work right away. And so that dam came to life very quickly. We were able to use it, and the same is going to be true of this mechanic project as well. So I'd like to talk just a little bit about kind of all who was involved in that. And John, you can jump in on this too, but I know with the Living Water Dam project, there were 26 or 27 different clubs involved, I think, from Taiwan to Canada to Eswatini, which you referred to the Babon Baluzi Club earlier. But I know that there were clubs like the Alpharetta Club, the Carrollton Dawnbreaker Club. There were just a list of different clubs. And so I think part of the power in doing this is not just one club, but going to other clubs and casting a vision for what the project can do and what it can accomplish, and getting other clubs involved in that so that they can have a connection. And so now I've been able to build relationships with clubs throughout the district who've been involved with Heart for Africa projects through this particular global grant and others as well. And I don't know, John, if you'd have anything to add to that or not.
Just a couple of things. One thing, there was actually surplus funds as a result of the Living Water Dam, and we asked the foundation if they would allow us to erect water tanks, a couple of them, and that permission was granted. And so there was actually an overflow of things that were created as a result of that. There's a beautiful plaque on the property overlooking the dam that makes reference to Rotary and the clubs from all over that contributed to the project. And I don't remember the specific number at hand, but there were just a large number of them that also were interested in the Eswatini mechanic project later on.
Yeah, that's true. I think we had 10 or 12 clubs that joined that project. Marshall, can you put up the pictures of the aerial photos of the dam that I sent you? I just kind of wanted to share a little bit of the scope. So in this first picture, we actually built an amphitheater facing out over the dam. This is a 1,000-seat amphitheater, which is going to be part of a larger complex that we'll have that will be for performing arts, but kind of over to the right of the amphitheater there's kind of in that clearing area, there's the statue that John refers to with the plaque for, yes, that's it right there, that references Rotary's involvement. And if you can put the other picture up, Marshall. So this is just an aerial view, and this is actually before, you can see down here, before the amphitheater was constructed and built. But this, at the top of the screen, there's a road that runs along kind of the boundary wall of the dam there. And that is where earlier this year, when Cyclone Eloise hit, the dam completely overflowed that boundary wall, and we had to kind of shore up some of the sides of that wall to keep the dam from basically losing containment. And it, we were able to do so, but that dam is completely full now. And as a matter of fact, we have a resident crocodile that's taken up, it's kind of the mascot, I guess, for the dam. And every now and then you can see the crocodile surface. So, but, one of the things that I think is important is to, and there you can see kind of in the very background, you see several humps in the back. That's our aquaponics project and kind of our open field farming. So having the dam here has allowed us to open up a lot more fields for open field farming. We're growing tomatoes, beetroot, sweet potatoes, tomatoes, green peppers, just a variety of different things. And part of what we grow is dependent on a couple of different factors. One is what the market is wanting. About 80% of the food in Eswatini is imported from South Africa. And the drought a few years ago really wiped out the country's ability, wiped out a lot of the kind of local subsistence farmers' ability to grow maize, which is a staple crop there. And so we've been able to form relationships with markets and produce sellers to purchase the produce that we're selling. But for us, again, to go back to the vision of sustainability, what we're really building is a farm that is both the side of our children's homes and our schools. And this dam is part of that overall vision of sustainability, because we want, we're building towards a point where we don't have to continue to fundraise for operations, that the farm, through its open field farming, through the dairy that we have, the chicken project, the egg project that we have, and a variety of different businesses that are located on the farm, that we're able to generate enough revenue to cover that. And that is also true as well in terms of the mechanic project that we referenced earlier, is that we're going to be able to not only provide vocational training and education for people who are coming to that, that we will also be able to generate revenue through providing mechanic services, through providing panel beating, which is what they refer to, body shop work in South Africa is referred to as panel beating. So we'll have a variety of different opportunities there, which will further contribute to the sustainability and the opportunity to generate revenue for the organization. And so both of those grants, with the dam, the living water dam grant, and then the recent mechanic project, has really allowed us to leverage the impact and the generosity of the foundation and all the clubs involved in a way that has opened up a lot more things for us. And so now with the recent funds for the mechanic project, we're now in an active phase of raising funds for capital construction of a building that will house all the tools and equipment provided through the generosity of the Rotary Foundation and the clubs that were involved with that in the district. And we'll be able to start training 12 to 15 people each year on becoming mechanics and panel shop owners and workers. So just kind of want to take a minute to see if there are any questions or if anybody has any other comments as we're talking about this process.
Yeah, I've got a question here for y'all both, or one or both of you. This is Kirk. The overall cost was what, like $330,000
For the dam, that's correct.
for the dam. And I know John kind of joked at it at the beginning when he was talking, like kind of snarked it off as a laugh and as a joke, like, oh yeah, we'll just build a dam, right? And I know that I know it's like 50 feet high. I mean, to put it in perspective, the pictures may not do it necessarily justice. It's 50 feet high, about 400 feet wide, and about 600 feet deep or thick. Is that right?
Yeah, and it holds over 10. It has a capacity of over 10 million gallons of water.
All right. So, like, as a Rotarian, John, so your first global grant was a tractor. Oh, congratulations! It's still in use. That's great. They're needed. But you go from a tractor to a $330,000 dam, over there in a drought-stricken area. Like, what were you like? How does that happen?
Well, people, my wife's in the background saying God, but the idea, it's whether or not an idea catches fire. And that's what happened. We meet with the foundation says, sure, that's a possibility. And we start putting the pieces together, and Heart for Africa on its own contributed money toward, they raised money that was part of the pot for the project. And that was, if I remember, that's not matched money either, but how does it happen? It happens because of the idea itself, some people with their fire, in their belly for making it happen, which I give credit to Ben Hunter too. What happened, Ben was the one who was the president. He says, let's go with it. I'm still scratching my head. And then it reached a point where Ben was too busy to carry on with all the nuts and bolts and proceeding with it. And I had time at that point to do it. But, it's the idea, the love for the organization, the love by the people involved. And there is, there's a saying that, let me attempt something so impossible that it's doomed to failure if God's not in it. And that's kind of how I felt about this particular project at the end of the day. But if you get the idea, and don't underestimate what the foundation people in the district and the nationally can do, because I was kind of tippy-toeing and they were enthusiastic, and again, it gets momentum, and then all of a sudden it's happening.
In fairness to John, the drought had not started when the money for the living water dam was awarded, so we We didn't build a dam in the middle of a drought, but the drought came afterward. But let me paint a little context that hasn't been shared. So we built that dam prior to the drought occurring, and then the drought came along. And then we raised $850,000 as an organization to build a 6.5-mile water pipeline to bring water off of the mountain down to the farm. And if we hadn't had the dam that Rotary helped us build, we wouldn't have had the retention capacity in order to keep that water. And so even though we didn't know at the time when that dam was being built how important a role it would come to have in the organization, we envisioned that it would certainly have an important role, but we didn't realize how much we would need it when we built that water pipeline. And so I love the way in which things have developed over time with that. And I think that you can't, I give Rotary a lot of credit, and I also give Janine and Ian Maxwell, who are the co-founders of the organization, a lot of credit, because once they have shared their vision, they're somewhat indefatigable in pursuing it with a relentlessness and a kind of a single-mindedness to see that happen. And so that dam became part of a much larger vision that none of us even recognized at the time, but it was an integral part of it.
Yeah. And one last question, I don't want to not hog all the questions, but Marshall and they may have one here for you as well, but what's that, explain to, I know y'all have like 300 children currently living on the farm where the dam is.
Correct.
That's a smiling face, this guy, a clean cup of water to drink in an area that you know, I take it for granted, right? I mean, I'm just being transparent. I've had running water in my house since I've been born. To have clean water, what kind of impact has that had in that community and really feeding your organization there?
Well, without the dam, we wouldn't be able to grow the food that we do. And that food is a vital part of our hunger initiative. And our hunger initiative is actually a program in which we network with 30 church partners throughout the most rural parts of the country. And we provide them with food. We provide them with hard-boiled eggs. That's part of our layer project. And we're able to take them produce from the farm. We're able to take them water. If it's needed, we're able to take them firewood. So that dam is not only contributing to the agricultural output, it's also allowing us to draw on water reserves that when there are parts of the country that don't have access to water, we're able to take it to them for cooking or for other usage. And we're feeding about 4,500 children a week outside of our farm throughout the most rural parts of the country. And so it has an enormous impact, Kirk. And without our ability to kind of rely upon the amount of water we now have, we would have to be much more internally focused and making sure we were focused on our own kind of survival. But with that dam, with the tanks that John described earlier, we have two 500,000 liter tanks that were I should say the remaining funds from that initial global grant allowed us to do. We're able to focus outside of the organization as well. And we're probably on track this year to feed about 1.2 million meals from both the food that we're growing and the food that we're providing through that network as well.
That's amazing, man. And all started from an idea of a tractor to get a club. I mean, so like if this is someone that's in a nonprofit watching this, like how do you partner with Rotary? You know, it's you just a million plus meals, but it started with a tractor.
No, it started with a book.
Or with a book.
Yeah, I mean, and the book I read, and I saw that its local office was in Alpharetta, Georgia. And I said, well, I got to talk to these people. And we met with them, and then that's how the whole thing started. It just seemed like such a wonderful organization. And one of the things I would say, if you're trying to do a really big grant, make sure that third-party link on the other side is an A+ organization, because that has been essential in what happened with us.
Yeah, I just noticed that Heart for Africa, like Rotary, is a 4-star rated charity by Charity Navigator. So good people working with good people, sharing a vision, having a passion in their belly, telling the story, and making amazing things happen.
I think the other element to this in being successful with finding that global grant partner is every Rotarian I know is part of Rotary because they believe in service above self. And so the opportunity to, I know for me, one of the reasons that I'm a Rotarian is the ability to have impact, not just in my community, but to have impact globally. And that's what our Giving to the Foundation accomplishes. It allows all of us to participate in global impact, global giving, and projects that are impacting people by providing clean water, by providing life-saving medications, by providing all kinds of different opportunities for people. And so, you know, I would say that even before Heart for Africa came along, even before Janine wrote the book, It's Not Okay With Me, Rotary was out there working throughout the world to provide opportunities to nonprofit partners just like us. And so, you know, if you're a nonprofit listening, then I would say that developing a relationship with a local Rotary club or Rotarian, especially with individual Rotarian who can kind of become your champion or your evangelist, if you will, within the club is where you need to begin. Because at the end of the day, it's all about relationships. Relationships have to come before resources do.
I see a question asked about speaking to the global grant process and best practices that could be followed if you're wanting to proceed with that. When I started this process, if somebody had given me a test about the global grant and foundation, I would have probably gotten a D at best, because like I said, my concept of the foundation was that it's this great cathedral in the sky that touches Earth in some ways, specifically how, I wasn't sure. So, you know, I mean, it's just, number one, go to the foundation website and read the specifics about what you can and what you can't do. Find your foundation representative at the district level and sit down with them and say, I've got this idea and help me understand, you know, here's what we're thinking, what I can do and what I can't do. Look at the grant application. It's actually not real complicated, you know, and get the district behind you, especially if you're looking for DDF monies to match, which is how this thing works. But just kind of assume you don't know much. And like our district has a webinar with different parts that you actually have to take and pass a quiz in order to qualify your club. Well, that's all good. But it's just taking baby steps and seeking help from the district and the foundation, and they got the people there to help.
I would echo that, John. The help we received from the district was amazing, both from the perspective of answering questions in the beginning part of the process to kind of looking at our application as we worked on it, providing clarification and guidance. It's my experience that the foundation wants clubs to be successful in this process. And so they want to provide the resources. It isn't one of those things. It's a competitive process for sure, because there are lots of clubs applying and vying for those resources. But the foundation wants clubs to be successful in this process. And so I think that educating yourself through the foundation website is critical to understanding it. But I certainly believe that any club with the right relationships and the right commitment to doing so can you know, submit and receive a global grant.
We have another question. You were talking about the mechanics project. So can you elaborate a little bit more about what that is and how that will benefit the group, and perhaps if there's any partnership opportunities out there for others?
Sure. So one of our pillars, as I mentioned, hunger, orphans, poverty, education. Poverty encompasses both vocational training and employment. So Heart for Africa right now, they're at Project Canaan, which is the site of our farm and our children's homes. We employ about 320 men and women from the surrounding communities. And for every single employee, on average, they support about 7 other people. So we know that we're having an economic impact of over 2,000 people each and every day as a result of that employment. And so when we look at businesses, whether it's farming, whether it's the layer project, which is our egg project, whether it's the dairy, we always look at things from two perspectives. One is, will this generate revenue that will allow us to reach our goal of sustainability? And number two, does this create or provide some essential service for the operation that will allow us to also reach that vision of sustainability? And so we've long had this dream, and we actually called it the Lucido Project. Lucido is a Siswati word. And we called it the Lucido Project in the early days, and it just became kind of a shop where we would do welding, where we would do auto repairs, where we would work on any of our fleet in terms of any of our heavy construction equipment. And so in the early days, it was just kind of the place where you took your car for an oil change or change your tires or whatever needed to be done. And there's a lot of tires that need to be changed in Project Canaan because the roads are awful and the thorns will puncture tires. Not very hospitable place for struts and shocks and tires. And then that vision kind of grew over years to this particular project, which was, how do we build a structure and equip this structure and provide a program where we can train people towards certification as mechanics, welders, panel beaters, body shop workers, to provide these kinds of essential services within the community, because we're located about an hour from the nearest urban area, a city called Manzini. There's a large golf course community nearby, as I mentioned, but otherwise we're in a very rural location. And there are a lot of quote unquote bush mechanics in the countryside, but nobody that you can rely upon as reputable service or certifiable kind of warranted work. And so we really began to look at how do we create this as a classroom learning environment for people where they can get certified and either leave and kind of operate their own businesses or work for Project Canaan in providing those kinds of services, where I think on an annual basis, we're spending close to $100,000 in kind of auto maintenance, repair, and other kinds of things. And so some of that, is going outside the project to other locations to get work done. And so for us, it became kind of a no-brainer to say, okay, if we can train people to do this work and it'll allow us to take care of our own equipment and needs, while at the same time generating revenue because other people in the surrounding communities need this, and it also hits directly at one of our pillars, which is decreasing poverty by providing unemployment, we should do it. And so we kind of batted around for a couple of years how to fund it, because it's a large project. The structure that we're going to build is probably about $300,000 by the end of the day to build the structure with the classrooms and the garages and everything. And it was about $150,000 to $160,000 for the equipment that was needed, the wrenches and the lube kits and just everything you need to equip a garage to do the kind of mechanic and welding work that we're talking about. And so that really was the vision that we had. And in looking at the guidelines of what the Rotary Foundation would fund, capital buildings are not necessarily on that list, or at least for this particular project, but the tools and equipment were, and it fell within the guidelines of supporting this kind of vocational education project that the foundation is interested in supporting. And so that's really kind of what led us to this particular project.
Okay, so the next question is, are you looking for additional Rotary grant partners for this latest project you're just talking about? And then the next one after that is, what's the best way for others to learn more about this entire project, Heart for Africa?
I will say that one of the things that we've talked about as a club is there was a need for a mobile kind of environment. We were looking at the possibility of raising additional funds through another grant to provide for a truck that would kind of be able to go out to different sites or respond to breakdowns that weren't close to the farm or close to the project itself. And so last I checked, and I don't have that in front of me, but I think we were looking to raise somewhere between $40,000 to $45,000 for that vehicle. And so we certainly as a club are interested in looking for someone who would be interested in maybe leading that project, and we would partner with and support them. We certainly already have all of the information necessary to kind of support the case for that. And then in terms of learning more about Heart for Africa, I would say visit heartforafrica.org. You can learn more about our work to fight hunger and care for orphans, decrease poverty, and provide education. And I'm certainly happy to provide my information as well. It's david@heartforafrica.org, and happy to talk further about Heart for Africa itself and about the way in which Heart for Africa and Rotary has partnered to accomplish some of these projects.
If you get a chance and you're looking at the website, look at the video that's the overview of Project Canaan. I'll still watch that, but it's a drone flyover, and you'll see the hydroponics, you'll see the dams, the farming operations, the schools, the medical facilities, the dormitories, and it's just amazing.
As an aside, my daughter goes to South Africa for some research projects, and she told me how often the women typically are carrying big containers over their heads filled with water to make sure they can get water to their family, and that they make this trip every day, several times a day sometimes. So, that's the kind of thing that, like Kurt was saying, we're used to turning on the tap and having what we need. So what was it like prior to having this water accessibility for the people in your area?
Well, the people in the surrounding community don't have access to this particular body of water. The way that they're able to access it is through our distribution to.
You booked a cozy Verbo mountain cabin.
Hold on just a
With
second.
a kitchen where everyone can chef. A family room where you can let your hair down. And a backyard that is
I was trying to pull up the link for that video that John referenced and left the YouTube window open. My apologies. So so that's the way that they would access it, is through the Hunger Initiative. And we do have the opportunity as well for our employees who are in need of additional food or water or firewood. They're able to access that on the farm. We have a small commissary, for lack of a better word, where people can buy milk, they can buy eggs, they can buy produce, and it's at kind of sub-market prices. We also provide a meal every day to all of our workers there, the farm workers and others who kind of come every day to work there. But let me speak specifically to that idea about people going and going somewhere for water, and you see these women traveling with the water on their head. One of the challenges that women, certainly in Eswatini, face, and one of the reasons that providing access to water can be key, is that unfortunately women on their way to get water are often the victims of sexual assault. And so the ability to provide not only safe transport to our employees who are coming there, and to be able to provide them with food and water is very important to us, to kind of also provide a measure of protection in doing that. So.
Thank you. I don't have any more questions in the chat, but if anyone else has any additional questions, please feel free.
Sean, do we have any more from Facebook?
No, it was just that one.
Okay, excellent. Kirk, any more from your side?
It's more of just a thank you for aligning your passions and your willingness to serve a great cause with Heart for Africa, but then as well as coming along and leading your current club as your president, and just coming and merging it all together, is that, we can be a Rotarian and be passionate about a cause at the same point in time. And it's just really awesome to see what y'all's club has done and the impact that it's having. I mean, it's generational and legacy, true legacy driven, where you're feeding, educating, and providing shelter for the generations to come of leadership in that community. And it's exciting, man.
Well, thanks, Kirk. And I think one of the things I'd like to add that I don't know that we referenced in our previous discussion was we're not a big club. We've averaged between 20 and 25 members throughout our history. You know, we've gotten a little bit higher, gotten a little bit lower. Right now, we have 24 members on our roster. And for this latest global grant, I think we raised as a club a little over $30,000. That was then, of course, matched by the district, then, of course, matched by Rotary. So you don't have to be a big club to accomplish incredible things. As a matter of fact, we often talk about being a small club accomplishing mighty things. And so if you have, you know, a few committed people who dedicate themselves to going through this process, and they have a vision and cast that vision for other clubs to participate in and to join, you can accomplish a lot, but you don't have to be a big club to do it.
That's great, man. Thank you. Thank you.
That's so impressive. And this whole project, just amazing work. And John, David, really appreciate you guys being here tonight to tell us the story of Heart for Africa and demonstrate again to everyone the great work that the Rotary Foundation does around the world, and how we all can make a difference from wherever we are just by giving to our Rotary Foundation. We will be sending out links to the recording tonight. We'll also include a link to the contact information for David in case anyone wants to find out more information about this project or perhaps get involved. We'll include all that information. And let's see. Yes. Okay. And we'll get that out. But again, David, John, thank you so much for being here tonight. And we look forward to seeing everyone again soon. Take care, everyone.
Thank you very much, Marshall. And thank you, Kirk.
Thank you all. All right.
Thanks all. Good night.